This time on the Farm2Table Direct Show, we delve into the fascinating and vital world of traditional herbal knowledge and safe practices in herbal medicine. How can ancient wisdom passed down through generations of traditions guide us in a time of misinformation and unsafe practices? Join us as we sit down with Dewayne Hall, an expert whose unique heritage and expertise illuminate the path to safe and effective herbalism.
Dewayne is a national speaker on all things homesteading, from wild crafting to animal husbandry. He has studied microbiology and has a degree in agriculture. Dewayne is a Cherokee citizen, and as a child, he spent much of his time on the Navajo Indian reservations, making him an expert on all native and traditional medicines. Dewayne can also teach on so many other topics, from meat goats to herbalism to emergency preparedness, rainwater collection, and so much more. Dewayne, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me. It's an honor.
We sure appreciate you, taking the time to be with us tonight. And I think what we've got to tell them tonight is going to be important for preparing the immune systems of their children. And so without further ado, I want to just kind of get right into it, Dewayne. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in herbal medicine?
Well, that started years ago. My mother was the youngest of my granddad's children, and I happened to be her oldest. So about the time my granddad decided to stop farming, and I was big enough to follow behind him. And so I became my granddad's shadow. And I did not know this at the time, but I'm the one that my granddad decided to pass everything down to. And so as we would take our daily walks, whether it be cutting wild sunflowers out of the field because the land was in what at that time they called the soil bank, and we had to keep it at a certain level. He and I were cutting sunflowers, to fishing, to hunting, to just living life. My granddad was always going, okay, you can eat this plant. You can't eat this one. This one's poison. This one looks just like it. This plant's good for this, for medicine. We can do this. We can do that. And so I thought as a kid, everyone's granddad did this. I didn't know how special it was for him to be passing this knowledge down to me. And so I was really impressed. I remember one time that really stands out in my memory. My granddad was very important to me because he was a man that, he accidentally shot his right hand off when he was 19 out squirrel hunting, providing for his family. He had a double-barrel shotgun, come in, wooden porch, had it up on top of the barrels, slipped off, double hammers, hit it, shot his hand off. So he went to college, played college football, raised 6 kids and farmed with one hand. Okay, so I never knew what disability meant. And so we were out squirrel hunting one day in the fall of the year, and my granddad says, would you like some honey? I'm going, yeah, I'd like some honey, Granddad. He said, okay. And by this time, I'd learned not to ask a lot of questions, just listen and go. Okay. And as we were walking down through there, he started picking certain plants. And I didn't know what he was doing, but I was watching him. And he picked these plants and he put them up in his crook of his arm right here. And he went to rubbing the arm that he had a hand on, running them through that plants. And we walked a little while further, and sure enough, right there up in the tree was a big old bee tree, his honeycomb hanging out, everything. He knew where this was at already. That's why he asked me. And I saw him reach his hand up inside that tree and pull out a big, huge clump of comb and never got stung.
Wow. So I just have to ask you at this point, what was he doing when he was rubbing those plants? What was that about?
He knew what plants to rub on his arm to mimic the life of those bees, that they didn't see him as an invasion.
Oh, makes total sense.
Camouflage.
That's right. He was camouflaging himself. And I mean, he'd been teaching me all these things, but still at my age, I'm 65 years old now. That impressed me.
It's very impressive.
It is impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a beekeeper now, and you know, I'm not sticking my hand off in the middle of a hive like that just to see what they do, especially reach in and grab some comb out.
Where's your faith, Dwayne?
Might sting a little.
That might.
But,
So that was my early on learning from my granddad. I got to spend a short time on the Dene or the Navajo reservation, and I got to learn a little bit of their medicine. And then later on, I had the opportunity. I studied on and off for 25 years under a Cherokee medicine man before I was ordained into the Native American Church. And so I've made it my life's goal to study and learn as much as possible, to look at what the Creator has given us here on this earth. Because everything we need is here.
Yeah. So now, how has Cherokee and Navajo tradition shaped your approach to herbal medicine? How is it different, let's say, than traditional medicine?
Well,
what we call traditional.
What we call traditional, I guess, might be called non-traditional to you.
Yeah, you know, we've only had pharmaceuticals for about the last 150 years or so. Right. You know, you go back 150 years or so ago and you look in a doctor's bag, and what did you see? You saw herbal medicine in it. Okay. So, you know, we've just gotten away from that a little bit. But what really has impressed me and quickened my heart is that we are to live a natural life. And that natural life is given to us freely if we will respect it, care for it, and use it accordingly. And so that's one of the reasons that's drawn me so close into this, is that this is what to me, this is what the Creator intended us to do to begin with. So, you know, I've learned a lot of things, and I'll give you some examples. Aspirin. The natural form of aspirin comes from willow trees. Okay. So therefore, you know, we just taken and synthesized it in a lab. A huge majority of all your pharmaceuticals were first found in nature.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, that and we're going to dig into that here in a little bit, but I mean, that is such a big transition of where they've tried to mimic nature with some not positive effects.
Yeah, that's right. Usually, because when you start synthesizing, you don't use all the constituents that the Creator put in that. So sometimes that brings in problems. Now let me say this right off the bat. One, I am not a licensed physician. I do not diagnose, nor do I prescribe. Okay, that's called a CYA. Cover your anatomy.
Right.
Okay? So I want everybody to know that right off the bat. Now, I am 6 hours away from being a microbiologist. I've studied extensively in the medical field, in college and away from college, both. I just, in my opinion, that's a more natural approach.
Right.
Do you want to take this question?
Yeah, we can. We got a question from one of our people following, Mickey, and said, ask what your grandfather used on his arms to stop the bees from stinging, and said, thanks for sharing your story.
You know, I would love to be able to answer that. and I have gone out and thought about that and walked among the plants to find that. And I don't know exactly which plants they were, and I probably never will. That's probably happened just for me to benefit from that.
Right.
Now, one of these days, the Creator may tell me, pick this plant, and this plant, and you can do the same thing. But as of right now, I don't know. I would love to know that. That's has stuck with me all these years. But I'm sorry to say right now, I don't know.
Right. I think you've probably asked the question a lot. So, Mickey, there it is. Thanks for your question.
Absolutely. we kind of going to transition just a little bit. You know, you've gained this traditional knowledge from your grandfather and from the Native Americans being on the reservation and all that, and the time of tutelage and your study. Um, there's a big difference in the traditional and modern practices, and I mean, you know, kind of, I guess the difference, or where you see the dangers, you know, in the rise of quote quote as you told us in pre-show, Pinterest herbalist and misinformation about it.
Well, anytime things start to be popular, people tend to jump on that bandwagon for their own interest, and whether they really know what they're talking about or not. I see people. They'll take only 48 hours on the computer, and this company will send you a certificate that says you're a certified herbalist.
Wow. Doesn't
That's
seem like
48
a lot of time.
hours. Yeah, on a computer. Okay. And I don't know if anybody's used one of these programs that you can get on your phone, you know, Leaf Snap and all those things. And everybody goes, "Oh, I don't need to study. I don't need the books. I don't need to learn. I don't need anybody to teach me. I got my phone." Well, I have found the vast majority it's wrong.
Right.
Because in nature, there's a yin and a yang. We have plants that look very, very similar, but one is a good plant, one is a healing plant, and one is a poison. Now, that poison could have uses. A good example of that is wild carrot or Queen Anne's lace. Looks very close to hemlock, poison hemlock.
Right.
And if you don't know those little tattletale signs in there that differentiate the difference between them, you could be picking poison and eating it instead of picking wild carrot. And so we've got folks that's out there and they're looking. Someone to put something. You know how this is. Just because it's on the internet, folks, doesn't mean that it's right. Okay. There's a lot of people put things on the internet just to get clicks and get some notoriety. And so we're seeing a lot of this out there today. There's books that's out. I mean, there's one herb people ask me about all the time right now. "Oh, Dewayne, do you have any wild lettuce? You have any wild lettuce tincture?" And I'm going, "Yes." "Well, I want to buy some." "No, we don't do that." Okay. Those are ones that are reserved for emergency uses under the tutelage of an advanced herbalist, because they can have repercussions. Just because it occurs in nature doesn't mean you can just willy-nilly do whatever with it. Okay.
Right.
And so we see people putting these things out there, and they took that 48-hour class online, and now they've got a certificate. And I'm so appreciative that they took at least 48 hours to learn that much. Okay.
Right.
Just
But
don't seem like enough.
that's not enough to be telling people what to do. Okay.
Right.
And especially today, we have so many people are on pharmaceuticals, and they want to go in. "Oh, I want to get off the pharmaceuticals. I'm going to start taking this because I read on the internet that this is good."
Right.
Well, did you study for any contraindications? You know, I had a lady the other day. She called me up and she goes, "Dewayne, what's wrong? What's wrong?" She said, "My blood pressure dropped out this morning." I said, "Well, did you double up on your medication? Did you whatever?" And she's taking pharmaceuticals for her high blood pressure. She goes, "No." I said, "Well, let's go back over what you ate for the last 24 hours. Well, I was having supper last night, and she told me what all she had. And I said, "Is there anything else?" She goes, "Well, I was reading where garlic lowers blood pressure, and I ate me a big old clove of garlic, and it was great. I liked it." And I'm going, "That's why your blood pressure bottomed out. You just doubled up on your medication, because garlic lowers blood pressure too. And that combined with what your pharmaceutical is, you bottomed it out."
Wow.
So there has to be a balance in there. And we there's a lot more questions that we need to ask rather than just Somebody said that worked for somebody.
Okay. Let's go ahead and take a question.
Let's take that question with Scott. Yeah.
Right.
Let's see. Okay, this is from Scott. It said, with all the information out there, how can the average consumer find and disseminate who is giving us the best and most accurate information? I'm looking for a natural remedies for health.
Well, you know, the first thing I'm going to tell you is pray about it. Okay?
Yep.
You need to seek the will of the Creator. And I believe, in my belief, that when we do that, that person will appear in our life. If we ask for it, that will happen. Now, you can ask for their credentials. You can ask where they learned, how long they've been studying, what they know. So educate yourself, just like you should educate yourself on the pharmaceuticals. Just because they give you something, read what the side effects of this thing are. Most people don't do that. They just willy-nilly take it. You know, you need to take charge of your own health. Whether you're going the natural route or a pharmaceutical route, you need to take charge of that, okay? Ask around in those natural communities. Those natural communities will usually know somebody. This person knows what they're talking about. Like, these people are good. You know, you guys have had Restoration Farms on your show, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay. You know, I think those people know what they're talking about.
Right.
Okay. Ashley and Stuart, they know what they're talking about. They're really good at foraging. They know a lot about herbs and stuff. They're well on their way, especially for their age. And I'm saying 65, so I'm saying especially for their age.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
I think they're far along there. But you start in that community and start asking people, and do some prayer work about that, and listen to your heart. If you feel in your heart that something's not right with this person, I wouldn't follow what they say.
Right.
Okay.
So I just want to back up a little bit about something that you said there. And it was that people should take personal responsibility for their own health. Seems to me that we abdicate our responsibility for our own health to those people who have credentials, meaning to say, we just put our full faith and trust in the scientific medical system. Okay. And I'm not knocking that. Okay. I know that there are a lot of good doctors out there. But a lot of those good doctors are also beholding to their teaching, one. The other thing is that they're beholden to three-letter agencies. And I would say since 2020, a lot of people, including myself, I have begun to mistrust, whether they're looking after the best interest of myself. And the main question here, again, is about abdicating responsibility to somebody that's got an MD or another thing to their name, simply because we've been taught over this period of time to trust them with your health.
There's only one thing we should put 100% trust in.
Right.
And that's the Creator.
Amen.
Someone comes to me. I'm not here to tell them what to do. I'm here to guide. That's all I'm here for. I'm here as a guide. And it's just different out there. And we need to learn, we need to get back to that. Okay? We need to do our own soul searching and looking as to what might be good for us. And test those things out before we just jump into something. I mean, my gosh, guys, look on the TV. I don't watch much TV, but when I do, half the commercials are, did you take this? Well, here's this lawsuit. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, every day.
And that stuff passed the FDA at one time.
Right.
That's a good point.
That's some stuff on my own personal watching and reading and stuff about the fact that the fact that in some of those agencies they profit from these medicines that they approve. And so things are making it through that maybe shouldn't make it through or wouldn't otherwise. And I mean, that's just I don't want to dig too deep off into that particular issue, but it's just the fact that knowledge of the fact that we can't trust everything without verifying. Reagan's old statement, trust but verify. And, there's a reason when I get a medicine that it's got this many pages of information, that goes with it.
And, if you start taking herbal remedies for different things, different herbs, you should study up on those. Okay, and know. But one of the big things we should do is we should stop treating the symptom.
Absolutely.
And start treating I shouldn't say the word treat. We should, quit looking at the symptom and look at the cause.
Absolutely.
Right? Because if you take care of the cause, the symptom goes away.
Yeah. Usually how it works.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so circling back to a point that you made about learning and not abdicating our own responsibility to understand the medicines that we might be considering taking. You emphasize the importance of deeply learning about a few herbs at a time and really going deep on that. Can you explain why you think that?
Well, if you're wanting to learn, and I think everybody should learn some level of herbalism, okay? I'm not saying you need to become an herbalist, but you need to have a working knowledge of these to a certain extent. And I see people that come to me and they want to learn 100 plants in 6 months, okay? Well, my apprenticeship with just one man was on and off for 25 years. You're not going to learn all that. And when you really talk to the herbalists, especially if they're native trained, they don't have to be. You go all over the world. When you look at I'll call it the Aboriginal societies, okay, right. They're going to do the same teaching. Okay, the same teaching is learn to have a relationship with that plant. You can feel the energy of that plant and what that plant does. Learn that plant in every stage of its life. Be able to identify it in every stage of its life. And so I used to tell people, if you're going to learn this, pick 5 plants. 5. And learn those plants really well. Learn what type of environment they grow in, because that's what they like. Don't try to put them in something that they don't like. Let nature take care of it. So learn that environment that they grow in. Learn what they look like as they're coming up. Learn what they look like is that right before they flower. Learn what they look like when they flower. Learn what they look like when they go to seed. Learn what they look like when they shed their seeds. And then learn what they look like when they're asleep during the wintertime. People say, why do you want to know that? Mm-hmm. Well, because that tells me if I'm out searching a place and I know what's left of that plant looks like, then that tells me where I can find that plant next year.
Right. Okay.
We should learn those things. But we've gotten away from that because we don't spend enough time in nature.
Right. We've definitely got away from, all of that. And now, what about when we're reaching out to, I know that there's books, I know that there's YouTube, Facebook, and we can learn from different people. But what about in-person human learning?
There's just, you can learn and you can study books, but there's not a substitute for what we call a two-legged teacher.
Right.
Okay? Because you can only learn so much out of a book. That two-legged teacher can teach you not only what's in that book, but what they have experienced and what they were taught that their teacher experienced and what their ancestors experienced. You can't write all of that in a book, because the only thing you can count as a truth is what you have experienced yourself.
Right.
And so when you have a teacher that will walk you through and help you identify those things and teach you little bitty nuances of the plants and how to care for them and how to love them and how to harvest them respectfully and how to be able to care for them once you harvest them and then how to make the medicine out of them. Those are all things that it's just hard to do without human interaction.
You know, you brought that up, and you were talking about the where to find a plant, what the plant is, and it goes by the difference between wildcrafting and herbalism, and can you kind of explain that to us?
Oh, there's a huge difference because everybody comes to me and go, I want to learn 100 plants in the next 2 weeks, and I want to know where to find them, what to do with them. No, herbalism is the use of those plants and their uses in helping people with their health. That's herbalism. Wildcrafting, on the other side, is finding those plants, knowing where they live, how to harvest them respectfully, how to be able to prepare those plants, say how to dry them, how to store them, what to do with them, but mainly how to be able to find them in nature. I remember, if y'all remember several years ago, the big craze was echinacea or purple coneflower. Right. All right. And man, it was just, the root was selling like crazy. People were buying it like crazy. And I remember driving down Highway 20 and I saw, because I knew there was a huge, the whole side of the road was just covered in purple coneflower out on the prairie. But it's right next to the highway. And the people were out there digging every plant because they were in it for nothing more than the money.
Right.
They were digging every plant and they were going to sell that to someone. Well, that was right next to that highway. All the toxic fumes off the gas, all the pieces of the tire, all the oil, all the toxic stuff, the rainwater that comes off of the asphalt, those plants absorb that. Those people had no ethics about what they were doing. Not only did they pick an inferior plant that should not have been used for medicine,
right,
they killed the entire patch.
Wow. Because
they did not harvest that respectfully. See, we will never harvest. I will not harvest a plant until I see that plant 4 times. I have to see it 4 times. Okay. And when I harvest, I will never take more than 1/4 of that particular plot. And I always harvest from the inside of those surrounding plants. So that way the seeds can fall in and grow and the seeds can fall out and grow. If you pull from the outside, you contain it. If you pull from the inside, it will still continue to grow. And in our tradition is we always send a prayer to see if we should harvest some of those plants, and we give them an offering of tobacco or a bead or sage or something like that. That's in respect. That's just like when you sit down to eat, you offer a prayer, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we offer those prayers before we ever get it to the table, before we ever take it.
So it just comes down to simple respect,
yes.
and then also, only respect. I say respect for the plant and nature and what it's provided, but honestly, even respect for yourself, because like you were saying, taking it off the side of a road where who knows what was getting on that, it's just not good practice. I can see that as not good practice.
So I want to interject here just a little bit, because we've had several people who's wanted to ask questions to you, Dewayne.
Yeah, it's a good place to do it.
Yeah, I think we need to take just a second to try to
go ahead, bro.
Catch up with some of that. And I'm going to start back up here with Mickey. And Mickey was saying,
she got that one.
we already got that one.
You got to scroll down a little more.
I'm sorry. Here we go.
Right there.
Right here.
Yep. Okay. That was it right there. Yeah. But you had it open. Yeah. You already had it.
Yeah. Anything for an extremely fatty liver.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to say I am not a licensed physician. I do diagnose, nor do I prescribe. Okay. So those of you that came in late. Okay. one of the first things is we got to go back and look at what's the cause of that fatty liver. Okay. First off, there may be need a lifestyle change. Okay. Diet, stress level, different things like that. But the next thing is let's look for herbs to work with that. Dandelion is good for the liver. We've known that. But if I was in that situation and I was going to be taking something, the number one herb I'm going to take for a liver is going to be milk thistle.
Milk thistle. Okay.
That's what we say is the only known herb that will cleanse and rebuild the liver. Okay.
Better write that down.
All right, that's a good one to know.
Well, and if you don't mind, let me talk right here about that one right quick. We live in such a toxic environment today,
right?
And your liver is a major cleanser of your body,
right?
Okay, and everybody ever so often should go through and help cleanse. Be kind to your liver, okay? Right. Because your liver's keeping you alive, people. It's getting rid of the crap that you live in and that you eat and everything else. So be kind to that liver, okay? And there's some detox programs. I use a product called Zeolite, Zeolite. And in combination with that, we use burdock. That helps clean the blood. And then we go with milk thistle for the liver. That's a 3-step approach to doing some cellular detoxing.
Okay. So I want to try to move along because like I said, we have 2 or 3 other questions to get to. And Mickey again was asking a question. Do you think it's beneficial to handpick all of your own herbs rather than to buy them in a market? And I would add, if so, why? What's the compare and contrast?
Well, if I'll wildcraft some of the herbs that we use. Okay. Mm-hmm. If there's not a lot of that plant that year, I won't pick it. I'll leave it. Right. They go, well, you need some of that. No, I'm not going to take that. Because what I did, if I took that plant, is I'm hurting the future. Right. I've got to think down the road. So if I don't see a lot of that plant this year, I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to look for other sources. You can grow your own. But you've got to learn the environment that plant likes, okay? The other thing that you can do is you can buy them from reputable herbal exchanges. I don't get a kickback or anything, but one of the companies that I really like dealing with, I've dealt with for years on plants that we don't have around where I live, or there's not enough there for me to harvest. It's a company called Mountain Rose Herbs, okay? They vet everyone that they buy from. They know their practices. It's mainly, most all of it's organic. They're very good. They'll tell you who wildcrafts, and they really know their wildcrafters that do go out. Okay. So if you can pick your own herbs and go through and do those, I would suggest doing that, because what that does is that everything in this world has a frequency or an energy to it.
Right.
And when you interact with that plant, that interacts with your health. That's one more stage in your healing process that you got that you might not have gotten otherwise. Now, not everyone can do that. And if they can't, that's okay. But if you have the knowledge to be able to do that, and you have the ability to be able to do that, I would suggest that.
Okay. Good. That's good advice.
All right.
Next.
Move on over to Scott. Scott said, what is a good list of plants that you would suggest to study first? Best for health.
Oh, my gosh.
There's so many to choose from. But.
That when I wrote my book, I'm going, what plants do I keep? What I put in this book? Okay. And I kept wanting to put more plants and more. And I go, Dewayne, you got to cut this thing off. And I ended up putting 96 plants. Those are the most commonly used. Okay.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
But I want folks to understand that herbalism is not just plants that you have to go out into the wild and get. Okay. Mm-hmm. That the vast majority of herbalism is in your garden. Okay. For example, I brought some
Purple, red onion. Yeah.
an onion.
Onion.
It's one of
Yep.
the best things in the world to detoxify. I eat onion every day. Okay. Even during one of the plagues, I can't remember which one it was, but a lot of the people that survived because they took a slice of onion, put it on a saucer around in the room, and that onion would absorb the bacteria and everything else. Now, they had to throw the onion away, but that kept those
Right.
folks from dying. But you use this to detox. Another one, garlic.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you're growing a garden, thyme, rosemary. I mean, I can go on and on of what you can grow in your garden
Right.
that are all medicinal herbs. Okay. I make a product. Everybody goes, oh, did you come up with this? I tweaked the formula, but my gosh, the formula's been around for eons. It's called fire
Right.
cider. Okay.
Fire cider. Okay.
Yeah, it's an old kitchen recipe because people knew that food is our medicine.
Right.
And they knew that certain foods did certain things to help people get well. And I brought some so I could talk about it a little bit here. If you could look at that.
Ooh. No, it's backwards.
Oh, it's going to be back. Okay, I'll read it to you.
All right.
This is the ingredients. Apple cider vinegar, honey. We know the healing properties of honey. I use elderberry instead of turmeric. Ginger root, horseradish root, onion, garlic, cayenne, jalapeno, lemon, orange, rosemary.
Wow.
And this stuff's good for just about whatever ails you, especially in the cold and flu season.
Okay, can you hold that up one more time for the audience? And Mr. P, can you pull his screen up?
Yeah, pull him up big.
Pull him up big.
There we go.
There we go.
It's backwards, but it's fire cider.
Right.
And right there from Red Feather Farms. So, yep.
Yeah.
And,
Okay, thank you, Dewayne.
Yep.
And the guys, the thing about it, you can make this yourself. It's easy to make. Okay. My formula that I use is an adaptation of a lady named Rosemary Gladstar. She is like my herbalist hero. Okay, her and Barbara O'Neill. Bless Barbara's heart, she's passed on now. Okay, but Rosemary Gladstar, fire cider's been around. People put different things in fire cider, make it different ways, that whatever they may want to add to it, as long as it's good for your health. But you can make this at home.
Right.
Now, to do it right, it takes 28 days to be able to make it. Then you can pour it off, so it's not, I'll make it today and take it this afternoon.
Right.
But, that's pre-planning. That's why we're talking about boosting your kids' immunity right now. It's things just like this we should be starting before they go to school.
Right. So, Wayne, I just want to back up just a little bit and kind of drill down on what Scott was asking there about a list of plants that would suggest to study first. And what thought that I had in my mind is that would it be that, for example, a lot of people are either insulin resistant or they are having problems with insulin? Would they start with a particular ailment, if that's really what they're trying to treat, and then look specifically for something to deal with those ailments, or is there a different approach?
That's where I would start. If there's something that you need to work on personally, find what those herbs are and work with those. Just it's insulin resistant, let's say. One of the plants that a lot of people use for that is a plant called sunchoke. Okay. Now understand, if you start to grow that, everything, it's invasive. It takes over. Okay. But you may need quite a bit of it. Okay. So that's a plant there. People with allergies, it doesn't grow very well where I'm at, but I really like nettles, stinging nettles. Okay. I could go on, it kind of depends on where you're at and what your situation is as to what would be the herbs that I would consider. The first thing, is if you're not growing things like onions and garlic and, rosemary and thyme, start learning those things. Start with that garden first, if you got a garden.
Right. So, keeping on that topic just a little bit. So, what if you're not really suffering from any particular ailment, but you just want to have like a kind of this daily or an ongoing like set of things that you would just do all the time for general overall well-being?
You know, I have like 1,000 plant elderberry orchard.
Right.
And because, you know, I harvested elderberries today. I harvested some from behind the house back there, a little patch that I've got there. I grew up with them. Okay. I grew up eating them. Now, they're beautiful in color, but they don't taste that good. Okay. But my granddad always had me eat some. Okay. Because they're really good at boosting the immune system, helping the cardiovascular, a lot of different things. And then in the English folklore, the plant is not called elderberry. The plant's actually called elder, as in someone that's older. Okay. And they were all in all the English gardens. In a corner of that English garden was always some elder plants, because they viewed it and they gave it the name elder because it looked after the family.
I see.
The fruit from that looked after the family. And that's a big thing. And elders, they're easy to grow. You know, that would be something I would do. Look at just some of these plants that's easy to grow. And start some of them. And go with those. You know, I mean, my goodness, if you've got a pasture of any size whatsoever out there, you probably got yarrow in it.
Right.
You know, just identify that. Yarrow is really good for a lot of things. But I would probably start on what's needed, boosting their immunity of the family, cuts, scrapes, things like that. Yarrow's good for those things. Plantain, it's all in a yard. Chickweed, it's every spring. Cleavers is every spring. You know, those all are good for stuff. Mullein, you'll find mullein, you know, in old rocky soil. Matter of fact, I'm fixing to go here in the next few days, and it's the right time for me to harvest quite a bit of mullein. And I have a patch that I'll go harvest from. And I only mullein is a biannual plant. It's a 2-year plant. I will only harvest the 2nd year mullein.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to address Chris here just a minute. It's Chris Thompson. Okay. And of course, she's asking, you know, about the recommendations in the book to help us learn. And what I want to say is, Chris, if you'll give us a little bit of time, we're about to circle around to that topic. But I want to highlight one here by an F. He was talking about herbs you recommend to relieve palpitations or hot flashes for menopause. Now, again, I know part of the answer to this, and that is that he does not prescribe or diagnose people. And but I guess the way to ask that is that if you were suffering from this, or someone in your family was, what would you tell them?
Well, you know, the first thing I'd want to do is I would want to find out, are the palpitations, and I assume we're talking heart palpitations, okay? Are they a symptom of the hot flashes, or are they a symptom of another health issue? Right. Okay. The hot flashes are menopause at this point. Hot flashes is a symptom of menopause. That can bring on other issues, or can bring other issues to the forefront. Okay. So I'm not going to address the palpitation. That would be something that would need to be addressed in a more personal setting. Okay. But overall, as the hot flashes, depends on one of the things. I was in Oklahoma City this weekend. I spoke this weekend and had a booth there, had people come and talk. I mean, I talked for 2 days straight, just about. And hot flashes was one of the big topics that come around menopause. Our herb that we use, there's several different herbs we use. Squall vine for one, but probably one of the main ones is going to be black cohosh. But
can you say that carefully again? Black
black cohosh.
Cohosh. Okay.
Cohosh. Yeah, there's a black cohosh and a blue cohosh, and they do totally separate things. Okay,
Right.
both are cohoshes, but they do totally separate things. But that's used a lot in there. But there's even more things to do. You know, you've got to check for any type of pharmaceutical contraindications. Is it going to mess with anything out there? Okay. Well, just for example, let me just pull it up here. So you've got a possible side effect of nausea, vomiting, symptoms of low blood pressure such as dizziness when taken in large doses, and black cohosh can cause miscarriage. Okay. Don't take black cohosh if you're taking drugs that lower your blood pressure.
Okay.
Okay. So there's things you got to know that there's contraindications. At that point, we may need to look at another herb. Okay.
Right.
So we always
does
have to work with those.
Does that highlight the importance of yes, we shouldn't abdicate our own responsibility for our own health, but there are times that sometimes we need to reach out to someone to help us to understand what we're dealing with. And it's more of a one-on-one personal situation by situation basis that would have to be talked over by you and somebody else who knows what they're dealing with.
Yeah, so someone that's been extensively trained. You want to talk with them. You want to feel them out. You know, do you trust them? Do you feel that they have your best interest at heart? Or are they just trying to sell you something?
Right.
Okay.
Well, I think that goes back in anything is that, and even what you said before about praying about it, but knowing, having that confidence in them and that trust that that is earned. Bro, would you back up? There's a question there that's kind of trimming up to Duncan family.
Duncan,
Yeah.
I was about to come back up to that.
It's, we talked about milk with the fatty liver. Ask how much it would help with cirrhosis of the liver.
It helps cleanse and rebuild the liver.
Okay.
Right.
And it will help. I'm not going to say it's going to heal everything and make it back when you were 18 years old. I'm not going to say that. But you know what? Any improvement's better than what it is today.
That's right.
Okay?
Right. And if you don't mind that I'll share a little bit of a personal story. And our mom was diagnosed with fatty liver, and it was non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, cirrhosis. Right. And she was in a fairly late stage whenever they caught it. So I think that's really key to what you can expect with using any type of medication. But I really want to double down on what Dewayne said, is that doing something for it, first of all, treat your liver, treat it well. Right. All right. Because it's taking care of you, first of all. Second of all, stop intaking things that can harm it and start inputting things that can help it. And I know that after that late stage diagnosis, my mom lived, I believe it was another 10 years or so.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, because she took steps. Okay. And so, I don't know the particulars, Duncan Family Farms, about, cirrhosis and what stage you're talking about. But, just I want to just double down on what Dewayne was saying there about taking care of it at whatever stage you're in. You're going to do something that helps you to have a little bit better health or potentially prolong your life if it's not just absolutely right at the end.
And there's something about prolonging life and also and quality of life.
Right. Absolutely.
We don't want to prolong agony.
No.
Despair. We want to have the life that we have here. We want it to be quality. So there's a lot of things that go into this. One of the things people don't do is we don't listen to our body, and men are the world's worst.
Yes,
you hear tons of ladies talking about taking herbal this and herbal that, and I don't feel good here, there. You don't hear men say that. Men, we're what are we taught to do? We're taught to suck it up and go on.
Right.
But
Yeah.
what usually happens when we suck it up and go on is after a while, it gets to the point that there's nearly a point of no return.
Right.
There's a point that nothing's going to fix it. So we need to listen to our body and recognize those things while they're still fixable.
Right. Okay, with that, Dewayne, what we need to kind of be moving on through the show.
Okay.
And for those of you that we did not answer all of your questions there, at the end of this program, we are going to be giving you information as to how you can reach out to Red Feather Farms, Dewayne Hall, and also take his recommendations as to what we're going to do. So hang in there, guys. You know, we're not ignoring you. We're trying to be very selective about what we choose here and answer your questions to the best of our ability. But there's more things that we need to get to, and right at this particular time, we're about to get in what we were promising you. We were going to tell you, and that is how you can prepare your children's immune system for the upcoming school season. And I think what you're going to find out on the other side of this little break that we're going to take is some information that we had heard earlier that it just did not really occur to me. So with that being said, bro.
Yep, absolutely. All right, we will go right now. Absolutely. Farm-to-Table Direct Coffee. Are you ready for the freshest cup of coffee you've ever tasted? Well, welcome to Farm-to-Table Direct Coffee, your destination for specialty coffee roasted to perfection. At Farm-to-Table Direct Coffee, we offer a wide variety of premium coffee beans, and unlike the commodity coffee that is on the shelves at most stores, our beans are hand-picked for ripeness. Available in several packaging options to suit your needs, the process is simple. Place your order, and our expert roasters get to work. Your coffee is roasted and shipped the very same day, ensuring peak freshness and flavor. I tell you, it couldn't be easier. From placing the order to receiving notifications throughout the process, Farm-to-Table Direct Coffee keeps you informed every step of the way. For the freshest, custom roasted coffee, visit our store at farm2tabledirect.com. That is farm2tabledirect.com, and experience the difference that the Farm-to-Table Direct Coffee can make your morning routine. Farm-to-Table Direct Coffee, from the farm to your table, the freshest coffee, guaranteed. Right there is the QR code. Scan that right there, and it will take you straight to the page. Thank you very much.
Okay, now getting back into the cold and flu season coming back up and the back to school things. It never occurred to me until we had a conversation the other day, Dewayne, about preparing your immune system to go back into what you've called and I understand as a petri dish, basically, of biological mess that the school system would be in any large crowd, obviously. So I'm just going to kind of jump off into that and let us know during this cold and flu season, since it's approaching, what are some of the ways people can use herbs to help them prepare their immune system?
Okay, well, let's start off with the first thing.
Right.
Always the first thing I'm going to tell you is diet. Okay. Lots of sugar. Kids love sugar. So do adults. We love sugar. But sugar is an immune suppressor for our system. So we've got to watch our diet. We've got to watch what we eat. Okay. And I used to teach school. And I saw it over and over and over. And I see it now. I know the time's coming. Okay. Because everybody's going to send their kids back to school. And within a week, everybody's going to be yelling, oh, my kids are sick. And the next thing you know, they're sick. And they just pass it around. Okay.
Right.
And it is. It's because we send our kids back to school. They've been out running around, or they've been home, and they haven't been out there help building that immune system up. And we stick them back out there in school where there's a sick kid or two, and they infect everyone. And now everyone's affected. It's just, it's a domino effect. Okay. So we need to look at that. It happens every year. Happens every year. I'm like, if we know this happens every year, why don't we take care of it ahead of time? Circumvent the issue. So there's several things you can do. The fire cider, that's one of them. Okay. That helps boost the immune system. All right. Another one. Now, some kids don't like that because that fire cider, in the name, it says fire cider. It's got a little kick because it's got horseradish in it. It's got jalapenos in it. It's got a little kick.
You cure what ails you.
It will. It will. It's kind of like Granny Clampett. She had that stuff that she didn't want to take, but it gets you over it, right?
Yeah.
But
She's got that image of Granny running around.
Yeah. Yeah, y'all remember Granny Clampett? She always had that bottle up in the cupboard. It was for medicinal purposes only.
Fire water.
Yeah.
But a lot of people like the taste of fire cider. Those that don't like any spicy, I would. That's not something for you. And the other thing is, this is elderberry tonic. Right. This particular bottle happens to be 1/4 elderberry juice, fresh pressed. I do not cook my elderberries. Now, granted, if you're buying those from Europe that's dry, it's got a high cyanide compound. You're going to have to cook it. You're going to have to cook it to negate the cyanide. But everybody understand that once you get things over 160 degrees, you start changing the molecular structure and degrading the biological and enzyme components of that. So when you go to boiling it, I know you put your cinnamon and your cloves and all that stuff in it, and you go to boil it, you're making a flavored drink. Is it going to have some medicinal? Yes. But you've killed a lot of the medicinal properties. The American Sambucus nigra, which is what we have here in the United States, it's native here, has less cyanide compound than apple juice does on the store shelf. Okay. I had a lady tell me one time, "You're going to kill people telling her to eat that." I'm going, "Hon, if I was going to kill people, I'd be dead a long time ago because I've been eating them by the handfuls, all my life."
Right.
So Missouri did a study on it, and they went in and improved it. But this has got elderberry juice, apple cider vinegar, which is one of the 7 healers of the world. Apple cider vinegar, especially with the mother in it. You want that little cloudy thing in there with the mother in it, is wonderful. Okay. Disease grows in an acid environment. Okay. And when we bring our body to an alkali position, disease doesn't affect us. And there's 2 major things that will do that. And they're both acids, but they will change our body to alkali, and that is apple cider vinegar and lemon juice. Okay. That's one reason every time I go to a restaurant or wherever, I'm always getting I want lots of lemon. Okay. Right. One, it helps negate the chemicals in the water that's in municipal water. And I'm just boosting my immune system. I'm helping. Of course, that lemon's got vitamin C in it too. Right. So elderberry, apple cider vinegar, honey. I'm a beekeeper, so I have natural honey, and I use dark honey. The darker the honey, the more medicinal the honey is. Okay.
Why is that?
Well, because it has what gives it the darkness is the pollens and the resins that they collect off the trees. That's why clover honey tends to be real clear, because they're just pulling nectar. They're just pulling the liquid. Okay. But when you put them out so that they have to go to the woods and the wildflowers and everything else, they're pulling all these different pollens and nectars and everything else out there. So that honey's going to end up being darker. Your fall honey is usually even darker. Okay. But the darker the honey tends to be always the more medicinal. And to me, I love it because it has a deeper, richer flavor to it. It's not just sweet. Okay. And then the last component in this, in this particular, I've got 4 different formulas of this. And the last one is organic black cherry juice.
Organic black cherry juice.
Because that helps with gout and it helps with joint pain. And especially coming into the winter season, people's joints hurt because of the, the weather and things like that. And so, I'm trying to package things up to help people with all their issues. Okay. So that's it's actually called an oxmel because it's vinegar extracted. All right. The apple cider vinegar is one thing I showed you. Let me see. Most of you have heard of echinacea, purple cone flower. Okay, that helps boost the immune system. This is a tincture. This is grain alcohol extracted. Okay. The other, y'all bear with me. I'll make a tincture out of elderberry. Okay. And to give you a guidance here, if you took an herb and made a cup of tea, let's call that 1 unit. You make a tincture properly, 1 drop is equal to 10 cups of tea.
Wow.
And essentially you have an indefinite shelf life. That's why I like tinctures. It's so much easier to dose with. Now, this, you see, whoops, here it is.
Yeah.
Elder flower.
Elderflower. Mm-hmm.
Most people talk about elderberry all day long. The flower is more potent than the berry. But it doesn't have that purpley look and all that stuff to it, you know? So, and that appeals a lot for folks, but, you know, if I really got to get after something and I'm going to take an elder product, I'm taking the flower. Okay. Another thing that's really good, and you guys can make your own colloidal silver.
Okay.
Colloidal silver. You know, it was used extensively in hospitals for years until they started copyrighting antibiotics, and then all of a sudden silver didn't work.
Right.
You know, a couple of years ago, my wife had both her knees replaced, and I was her caregiver, and she just essentially wore all the cartilage out of her knees. Is what she did. And I was there with the home health lady when she was pulling the bandages off, and I looked at the bandage and I said, "That's got silver impregnation in it, doesn't it?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "This particular doctor is the only one that she knows of that does that, and his patients all recover so much faster."
Wow. Interesting.
So, you know, back in even in the Civil War, World War I and II, a lot of your soldiers would put a silver coin in their canteen to help kill bacteria and stuff. You know, but that's when we had pure silver.
Right.
Yeah, you want to use 99.99% silver.
Right.
Okay. Because you don't want to use the hydrolysis and leach out the other metals and stuff in it. There's another product. Well, here's another one here. Helps with allergies and stuff this time of year. Bee propolis. Okay, which is one of the things that we extract out of a hive because it has those pollens and resins in it that help microdoses for that. And then I've got one. If you're tough enough to take it, it's called hot and nasty.
Sounds tough.
Because it's hot and it tastes nasty, but it'll fix just about whatever. Okay.
Make you forget about it anyway.
Right.
Yeah, it's a whole blend, but I mean it will it tends to work on lots of different avenues there. So those are some things that I would look at. I would start preparing for those. You know, if you think those kids are sick, buy you some onions up and put you a saucer in each room and put a little slice of onion. And you gather those up daily, throw them away, do the same thing, do that. And I know people are going to think I'm a little crazy, but if anybody knows what this is white sage.
Okay.
It's been medically proven to kill 99% of the bacteria that the smoke falls on.
Huh.
Okay. Cedar does the same thing. You know, if you want to go to the Middle East, this is frankincense.
Oh, okay.
They knew this stuff worked.
You know, I'll be honest with you, Dewayne. You know, whenever I've seen that in the past to where they would light something and then they would just wave it out around in the room, and you know, honestly, and I'm confessing something here. I thought, oh, that's just hocus pocus. Why are you doing that? But things have really changed. You know, it used to be that people really downplayed this type of medication or medicine or treatments. And because we were all science-based. And then since people have become more and more ill through over prescribing medications to individuals. And I would say even since COVID-19 and all the things that's happened, there's been a move back toward traditional medicines.
Yes, yes. Well, if you want to go reading in the Bible, it talks about using frankincense in the temples.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for purification.
Right.
So I mean, and guys, every culture has these things.
Yep.
You go to South America, they use Palo Santo, or you go around India, they use sandalwood. Middle East, it's frankincense and myrrh. The Cherokee used mainly cedar because white sage didn't grow there; it grows out in the plains.
Right.
Everywhere in the world, there's things to do. That medicine's there.
Right.
But those would be some of the things I would do. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Take baths every night. Okay. Now, especially when school starts, I'm not a proponent of taking a bath every night. Now, because what you have bacteria on your skin, you can do a little spit wash bath. Okay, but there's bacteria on your skin that is good for your system. Okay, but if you're around a heavy exposure of bacteria and stuff, you want to come in and cleanse that, get that off of you. They'll put those clothes somewhere so the bacteria that's on those is not going to, because you got to think it's going to contaminate you. So especially for a couple, 3 weeks, pay attention to what we're doing.
So I'm going to circle back to the onion because I thought, that was really odd whenever you had
First
said
mentioned
something
it,
about
yeah.
right. And is that for collecting bacteria in a room? Is that the reason that the logic behind that?
That's the logic behind it. You can also take onions and plant them on toxic ground. Now, you can't eat the onions, but in a few years, it'll clean all the toxins off the ground. So not only does it absorb toxins, it absorbs bacteria. You have a lot of people, that, I got sick from a summer barbecue. It was the mayonnaise in the potato salad. No, it was probably the onion that you left sitting out.
Huh.
Because it draws it in. And then you go to eat it, and you just put it in your system.
Note to self, because I love onions, so I'm going to have to remember that when it comes time for cookout.
Right.
Yep.
So you said something in our interview the other day when we were on the phone, and I found it to be extremely interesting, and I'd heard some about it before, but that is that when you're treating yourself for immunity purposes, that it's really important to get the herbs or the plants from your local area. Is that true? And if so, why?
Yes. We should always use things from our environment. That's just like honey. You want honey from a radius of about 50 miles from where you live, or at least that has the same ecological conditions, because that's going to give you the pollens and the resins and everything else that you're living in, that your environment's in. I don't use it. People say, do you use so-and-so, which is a Chinese herb or whatever, and I'm like, no, I don't, because it doesn't grow here.
Hmm.
Now, there's some herbs that we have here that they have over there that, but I try to use what's indigenous to here, because this is where the Creator put us. This is the air we're breathing. This is the things we're living on right here. So therefore, we should be taking things from here. That's another, I'm going to put a little plug in here for farmers markets and for your local farmers. We should be eating food from these local farmers or growing it ourselves, because that's our environment.
Right.
And that will supply us what we need. So we should do that.
So the other day, whenever we were talking about that, really resonated with you. And I'll tell you why. Is because when I fly overseas, I always get sick. I mean, it's not even a question of if I'm going to get sick. It's just at what point during that trip am I going to get sick? Right. And the reason that it resonated is because I'm going to an environment to where their bacteria and their environment is very different. And my immune system has not been exposed to it long enough for me to build up an immunity to that area. Is it
That's right.
related to that?
You're exactly. Well, look at what happened to Native Americans with cholera and smallpox. Killed by the
Right.
thousands just because of a few blankets.
Right.
Because their system was not ready to handle that. And that's happened all over the world in different cases. But when we go to a totally different environment where there's a different set of pathogens that our body is not used to working with, then we're going to be more susceptible to it. Always. I was in Oklahoma City this weekend, and people would come up and talk to me about this, and which, I'll take my fire cider and stuff, but when I'm doing something like that, I don't care. I'm going for this hot and nasty. I'm pulling out the big hammer. Okay, and I start taking that 3 days ahead of time while I'm there, and for at least 3 or 4 days when I get back.
Wow.
Because
Really,
I was around hundreds and hundreds of people, shaking hands. Didn't kiss any babies, but I was shaking hands.
Right.
So I had promised Chris a little bit earlier we would get to her question, and I wanted to kind of save it toward the end because I knew we were going to address that, and I know that you've written a book, and and their path has to start somewhere. Where would you recommend that they start their path? Would it be in a book, reaching out to someone who can teach them? And if, knowing that there are some unsafe and I would even say dangerous, because I remember the other night we were talking about ghost pipe, and that you said that there were people were recommended and people were getting off of their heart medications and jumping into ghost pipe. What can you say about that?
Well, again, I would suggest, first off, don't follow a Pinterest herbalist.
Right.
Somebody that, took a 48-hour course. All right.
Right.
I said, Rosemary Gladstar, my hero. Barbara O'Neill. Now, you got to be very careful with Barbara O'Neill, because I suspect, I see these things on Facebook all the time, shows her up there talking and doing things, and it's a voiceover, and it doesn't match. And I think it's a Chinese company that's trying to sell a bunch of crap using some of her videos.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So, go to YouTube, make sure the mouth matches up that you're getting. Okay.
Right.
But she's had wonderful, wonderful teaching. I've listened to tons and tons of that stuff. There's several books out there. I didn't bring a lot of the other books. My gosh, I've got a huge library of stuff that I have studied and I still go back to from time to time. Just, I will look for consistency.
Right.
I'll check 5 sources. If I haven't had a personal experience with it, I will check 5 sources, and 3 of those sources better be the exact same answer.
Right.
I see.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for congruency there. Right.
Right.
And that's even when I wrote this book, I went back. My wife would come in my study. I had books open and laid everywhere in my study. And I'm like, don't touch anything. Okay.
Right.
Because I would sit there and I'd start typing and writing about it and everything. And I'd go back and I'd check all my different references to make sure that those folks were explaining the same experiences that I had had. And if I had missed anything.
Okay.
But I did. This is my book, Natural Medicine Made Easy.
Okay.
And if I back off or whatever, there you go.
Natural Medicine Made Easy. And for
A
those who are
simple guide to the basics of natural medicine.
and for those who are dyslexic, you're probably having a fine time reading that. But
people like me who learned how to read dyslexic.
Right.
But
yeah. So this book has I picked what I felt was the top 96 different herbs in it, and I just opened it up. This is lobelia. Lobelia is the natural form of what you find in nebulizers to open up the bronchial tubes. Okay. And when you see the little feather on the corner, you'll know that's one of my go-to herbs.
Okay.
Okay, that's one of my favorites, my go-tos. But it talks about the common, if y'all can see this, I know it's backwards, but it says the common uses, the therapeutic actions, the parts of the plant used, common dosages, possible side effects, any contraindications there, important points to remember about this, other common names, a taste profile. And for those that studied any type of herbalism and all, you'll learn about taste profile. And then I have a spot down at the bottom here for notes for people's own experience about these herbs. In the back of the book, you can go back in and look up different symptoms, and it will give you the page number of any herb that has to do or works with those symptoms.
Okay.
So it's a good cross-reference from that standpoint.
So when you wrote that, what level of person did you write it for? Was it a beginner, medium, or?
I'm going to say just maybe a little bit above a beginner, because I wrote it in this format. One, because a lot of older people, it's got big print. It's easy to read. Okay. Mm-hmm. I also put it in a spiral so that you can open it up, fold it back. You could do your research with it, because I teach classes in this. I have a class I usually teach in the spring that's called Intro to Natural Medicine. And this is one of the books I use in my class. That way people can take their own notes. And those are folks that are just starting on the journey.
Right.
And so it'll work for those. I've got friends that, that I know that have been doing herbs for years. That's got a copy of the book, and they go, Dewayne, I love the way you laid that out. It's really good. I use that book. So, information's information. I just tried to make it where it would cross all the different lines as much as possible. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So I think, bro, that I'm going to give one more bonus question over to Dewayne.
Let's send
I
that.
wanted to back up to Courtney. And she took us instead of into
total direction
in a little bit different direction here. And she said, I wanted to ask about your perspective on parasite, what to use or not use, please.
Well, that's becoming a buzz right now. People talking about parasites. And before I start talking about specific herbs, I grew up that we cleansed ourselves of parasites at least once or twice a year. Right. Because you're gonna pick them up from everywhere, okay? And people don't understand that, but they do, okay? There's all kinds of different parasites, but the Creator knows, and if we will pay attention to what the Creator gives us, the Creator will take care of us. You take the wintertime, for example. In the wintertime, especially if you were living an indigenous life, you were eating roots, meat, things that would preserve and keep for a long time, okay?
Right.
And we tended to have a parasite buildup over the wintertime. So the plants that come along in the spring, most of them, we also had a depletion of our vitamins and minerals from doing that. Not as much sunlight. We didn't have a lot of our greens and things. So the plants that come up in the spring are high in minerals and generally are cleansing and will help get rid of parasites. I always make a salad. I'll pick dandelion, and I'll pick chickweed, and I'll pick some dock. And about that time, red buds are coming off too. And I pull all those little buds off of red buds, and I put them together and make salads. Or I just walk by and pick a handful of them and eat them, because red buds are anti-parasitic. Okay? In the fall, about this time right now, black walnut, the green hulls of black walnuts. We make a tincture and make other preparations in there. Black walnut is anti-parasitic and antifungal. I've seen it work on athlete's foot, jungle rot. Okay, and I give my goats. I'll go pick these green walnuts, and in all my watering troughs, I throw black walnuts over in my watering troughs. Because I'm just making them a black walnut tea, and they're going to drink it, and that's going to help get rid of parasites. So 2 of the main herbs that I use for parasites right now is black walnut, and another one is wormwood. Okay.
Well, there we go. That was interesting. Learned something.
So bro, unless you've got another question. Now, people just stay tuned because we're going to do basically a little bit of overtime here in just a little bit because we're going to get into a little bit different topic.
Yep.
But before we do, I just kind of want to wrap up this segment, and I'll wrap that up by saying or asking Dewayne, how can people get in touch with you, and where can they find more information on Red Feather Farms?
Well, really and truly, probably the best place to get in touch with me right now is going to be through my Facebook. Red Feather Farms, okay, on Facebook or Instagram, but I check Facebook a lot more than I check Instagram. Okay. And I'll tell you folks, if you message me on that, don't think I'm going to get back to you in 5 minutes because I look at it. I don't have my little phone going off because my phone would be going off constantly. Okay. Right. But you can message me, and when I get time, you know, I'll sit down and look at my Facebook. I'll answer you back. I'll get back with you that way. And what we'll probably do, depending upon if I can answer your question then, it's real simple or whatever. If not, then we may trade phone numbers. Okay. Because I can talk a lot easier than I can type.
Right.
Okay. And so we may trade numbers at that point, and then we can talk or text or whatever. But I'd rather probably in a lot of issues talk. Sometimes people actually will come see me. All right.
No, just wanted to once again say thank you to Dewayne for being so gracious to share his knowledge with us
and his time. Definitely
not we don't only just learn, but I feel like in this community, really want to shout out to everybody that's been participating in the growth
Absolutely.
of this community, and how building this community is really important. And we actually believe that we're stronger together, and we
Absolutely.
actually believe that we are the solution to a lot of the problems that we see going on locally,
yep.
in our state, in the United States, and as a matter of fact, in the entire world.
Right.
And the homesteading community exhibits everything, I believe, that is the solution to those problems. And Dewayne, you are an exceptional illustrator of that very fact. And once again, like I said, we just want to thank you for showing up and sharing your information and the knowledge that you've got, because that's what's going to do it. That's what's going to pull this community together, and it's going to bring things a little bit back home. And as we, and as one of the things that we say is take another link out of the chain, that food supply chain, shorten it up a little, get to know your local farmers, and get some local information, because there's a wealth of knowledge and a lot of it that we almost lost. Okay. We've become dangerously close to losing it. Yeah. And though the things that's happened to us in the past, especially over the past since 2020, it, as bad as it was, it's got some silver linings in that cloud. And that silver lining is people have woken up a little bit. They're waking up, and they're realizing that we've got to source our food a little differently for our own health and also for our own security.
Right. So,
if you don't mind, I'd like to, my last words here, I'd like to put a challenge out there for folks.
Okay.
I believe that for things to change, people have to change.
Right.
So be the change you want to see.
Absolutely.
That's it.
100% right there.
Yeah.
It is, it is absolutely that. I mean, that's honestly that part of what we got us even started, was seeing what we've seen and not being able to keep our mouth shut about it.
Right.
And stumbling into and I say stumbling because that's literally what it was, stumbling into the homestead community.
Right. Yeah.
And finding people like yourself that are living the solution. And that's what it matters so much. And so, yes, be the change that you want to see. And that's it. Well, Dewayne, again, thank you. Thanks to everybody that was in the chat. This has made a great show. We haven't pulled one like this one in a while, actually, but it's been a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed it. Like I said, a lot of knowledge. We gave you the shows coming up next week. Amanda Hardcastle from Hardcastle or HLC Longhorns going to be talking about her cattle. That's next Tuesday, 7:00, right here on Facebook and on YouTube. So go ahead and set your calendars now. Make your reminders for that. Next week, you'll be seeing us. And I tell you what, guys, great show. And I tell you, I'm just going to roll us right on out of here. So until next time, this is the Farm to Table Direct Show. Remember, we are #stronger together. It's only through the community. It's only through the strength of each other that we can overcome the things of this world. Be gracious to each other. Be kind. Be thankful for our Creator, God above. And as we always say, prepare for the unexpected and keep it local.